Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast.
Today we're looking at American Bitcoin Corp. The big question is it a good time to buy now?
We want to hear from you. Subscribe, like, and comment to support the show. And if there's a specific company you want us to look into, leave it in the comments below.
So let's get into the analysis. American Bitcoin Corp is basically a pure play Bitcoin miner. They just hit the Nasdaq back in September 2025.
Right. Pretty recent IPO.
Exactly. And they've timed it perfectly, really benefiting from this, well, huge run-up in Bitcoin lately. We're seeing some numbers here that are, frankly, almost unheard of in this space.
Yeah, unheard of feels right. When you look at the fundamentals, you really have to stop and stare for a second. The sources are showing just explosive growth. Their net income for the trailing 12 months, the TTM, it's sitting at an incredible $162.39 million.
That's already impressive.
But wait, the number that really makes you blink? Their 2024 earnings, $428.94 million. That's almost a tenfold increase year over year. Just massive.
Yeah, and that tenfold jump isn't just, luck. It speaks directly to something called operational leverage. It's key for miners. Think about it. They have these big fixed costs up front, the buildings, the mining rigs, all that infrastructure.
Sure, the initial setup.
Right. And then their main ongoing cost is mostly variable electricity, basically. So when the price of Bitcoin goes through the roof, like it has,
their revenue explodes.
Exactly. But the cost base, it stays relatively stable. That difference is pure profit expansion.
Which takes us straight to these profit margins you mentioned. They look, well, almost impossible on paper.
They kind of are. The TTM net margin is around 232%. 232%.
Wow.
I mean, just for context, right? Most really successful tech companies, the big names, they're absolutely thrilled if they hit a 25%, maybe 30% net margin.
So 232% is?
It's astronomical. It shows that extreme operating leverage Bitcoin gives them, but it also screens volatility, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It captures this perfect, maybe peak moment in the bull run.
It does, which leads to your big question, I bet.
Yeah, exactly. If the profits are that big, why does the valuation seem so low? We're looking at a price-to-earnings ratio, TTM, of just 2.12 and earnings per share of 2.64. Usually, a PE that low signals that the market just doesn't buy it. They don't think those earnings are sustainable, or they're bracing for a huge correction.
And that's the core tension right there. In a sector as wild as crypto mining, a PE of 2.12 looks incredibly cheap. If it's a big if the current earnings momentum keeps going. Just for comparison, lots of their bigger publicly traded competitors, they often trade well above 15 times earnings, sometimes way higher if they're seen as being in a heavy growth phase.
So the sources frame this as potentially undervalued?
They do. But you're right to be cautious. The market is clearly pricing in the risk that Bitcoin could pull back hard.
Okay, but financially, they seem pretty well equipped to handle some bumps, right?
Definitely. They've got a solid market cap, about $5.08 billion.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker. They report basically no material long-term debt.
Debt-free, essentially. That's huge.
It's enormous in a business this capital-intensive. No big quarterly interest payments hanging over their heads if the Bitcoin price takes a dive.
Plus, the stock trades a lot, over 2 million shares a day, so liquidity isn't an issue.
Right. And that lack of debt isn't just good housekeeping. It's a strategic weapon. It lets them move on opportunities, maybe make acquisitions in ways that heavily leveraged competitors just can't.
So their edge is partly financial discipline, partly just riding the Bitcoin wave.
Their whole model is built to capture that upside directly. Bitcoin just topped $112,000 this month, October 2025. Every jump like that dramatically improves their mining economics. They're structurally set up to maximize profit in this kind of bull market.
But there's another layer here, isn't there? Their competitive moat isn't just about numbers. We have to talk about the political connections.
Ah, yes. That's definitely unique to American Bitcoin Corp. The close links with prominent figures, specifically Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr.
Right. How does that play into the investment case?
Well, look, we have to stay impartial here, obviously, and just focus on potential business impact. But these high-profile political ties, they often translate into real-world, tangible effects. You're talking about a perception, at least, of alignment with crypto-friendly policies in the U.S.
Which could mean?
Potentially things like smoother sailing with permits, maybe better deals on power purchase agreements, perhaps just better regulatory visibility or access than competitors might have. It adds this really unusual non-financial dimension to their story.
It certainly gives them a different kind of spotlight. And Operationally, have they been busy? What have they actually been doing lately, say, the last quarter or so?
They've been pretty active, focusing on what looks like smart, asset-light growth. Back in August 2025, they pushed hard on expanding capacity. They did this by deploying next-gen ASIC miners, the really efficient ones, through a partnership deal with Hut 8.
Hut 8, okay. Another big name in mining.
Exactly. That partnership suggests they're not just relying on mining output alone. They seem focused on boosting their Bitcoin holdings through savvy treasury management too, using partnerships and maybe capital markets to grow their hash rate faster than just buying and plugging in machines themselves. It shows some strategic thinking from management.
Okay, so strong fundamentals, debt-free, unique political angle, and recent operational moves. Got it. But let's switch to the market's view. How has the stock actually been trading? What are the charts telling us right now?
All right, let's look at the technicals. The stock's currently at $5.76. Now remember, it had that massive initial surge, over 100% right after the IPO in September.
Yeah, huge run.
But since then, it's pulled back and is now in what technicians call a consolidation phase. Basically, it's catching its breath, digesting those big gains.
So if someone's thinking about getting in, where are the key levels to watch? Where's the floor and the ceiling right now?
A question. The immediate key support level is actually pretty close, down near its 52-week low. We're talking about the zone between $5.44 and $5.50.
Okay, so holding that would be important.
Very important. It suggests buyers are stepping in around that level. On the upside, the first hurdle, resistance, is right around $6. That's a psychological level too. If it breaks through that, the next major resistance zone is up around $7.25. That marks the top of this recent consolidation range. Getting above $7.25 would likely signal the next leg up for the rally.
You also mentioned something interesting about momentum indicators, like the RSI, the Relative Strength Index. You said it was neutral.
Yeah, that's quite significant. The RSI is hovering between 42 and 55, which is considered neutral territory.
What does the neutrality really mean? Is the stock just stuck, or is it resting before another move?
It suggests it's resting, not exhausted. See, some other miners, their peers, have seen their RSIs spike into overbought territory after this big Bitcoin run.
Meaning they might be due for a pullback.
Exactly. But American Bitcoin Corp, it's not technically overextended yet, and that's good news for bulls. It implies that if they do break out of this consolidation, maybe on earnings news, there's still technical fuel left in the tank for a significant move higher without immediately hitting those technical warning signs.
Okay, that makes sense. So, speaking of news, that brings us to the future. What are the big catalysts coming up, say, in the next 0 to 3 months that could really shake this stock?
The number one event, hands down, is their upcoming earnings report. It's scheduled for November 8, 2025.
Their first full quarterly report since going public on Nasdaq?
Precisely. The market is hungry for the hard data. Proof of their operational efficiency, how well they executed that capacity expansion during Bitcoin's massive run-up. It's a huge test.
And obviously the big macro factor hanging over everything.
A good coin's price. Always. It's the elephant in the room for any miner. Continued strength in Bitcoin is paramount. Some forecasts we're seeing suggest Bitcoin could push towards the $135,000 to $145,000 level in the near term.
Wow. If that happens.
Then those 232% margins we talked about, they could get even crazier. The upside leverage is just immense.
Beyond their own earnings, what about signals from the big money, the institutional investors? Those flows can really move the needle.
Yeah, definitely need to watch institutional moves. 2 key dates are coming up there. First, the institutional 13F filings are due December 2nd, 2025. That will show us which major hedge funds, pension funds, etc. bought into the IPO or jumped in during the rally. It gives a sense of institutional conviction.
And the second date?
January 8th, 2026. There's a big ETF rebalancing event expected then. The thinking is that as broad digital asset ETFs adjust their holdings, a company like ABTC, with its clean balance sheet and Nasdaq listing, could see significant inflows.
So potentially forced buying from index funds and ETFs.
It could be. And then, of course, you've got the rumor mill.
Always the speculation. What's the buzz on the street?
Well, there's chatter about a couple of potential moves. One is the idea of uplisting from the Nasdaq to the NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange.
Why would they do that?
It's often seen as more prestigious, potentially attracting a broader base of institutional investors who might have stricter listing requirements, more visibility.
Okay, what else?
There are also whispers about them possibly looking to do a bolt-on acquisition, buying up a smaller competitor, leveraging that debt-free balance sheet to quickly snap up more hash rate and accelerate their growth. Just speculation for now, but plausible.
All right, so lots of potential positives, lots of catalysts, but we have to balance that. What are the major risks here, the things that could really derail this story?
Number one, without a doubt, is Bitcoin sensitivity. It's their greatest strength and their biggest vulnerability. That extreme reliance on Bitcoin's price means if BTC creators say it drops sharply back below $90,000 or lower their margins, their earnings outlook, everything gets hit hard and fast.
The leverage works both ways.
Absolutely. And the second key risk, it's execution risk,
Me.
meaning they're still a relatively new public company, remember, only IPO'd in September 25. Management still needs to consistently prove they can execute these ambitious growth plans, integrate partnerships like the HUD-8 deal effectively, and maintain efficiency as they scale up. Doing that under the constant scrutiny of the public market is tough. That November 8th earnings report will be a major data point on their execution capabilities.
So Bitcoin price risk and execution risk, the two big ones.
Those are the main ones, yes. So if we pull everything together, the frankly stunning earnings, the debt-free balance sheet, that unique political angle, the upcoming catalysts, the overall picture painted by the sources is, well, overwhelmingly bullish right now. We'd probably rate this moment, based on the info, as something like a 9 out of 10 in terms of potential opportunity.
A 9 out of 10, that's strong.
It is. It seems driven by both fantastic current performance and that strong pipeline of near-term catalysts. It looks positioned reasonably well for both shorter-term traders, maybe playing the earnings or Bitcoin moves, and potentially for longer-term investors banking on sector leadership and structural growth.
It definitely sounds like a compelling, if volatile, setup. Okay, here's a final thought for everyone listening to consider. American Bitcoin Core sits right at this really unusual crossroads, technology, finance, and pretty high-profile political influence. How much weight should you, as an investor, actually give to that perceived policy advantage and those connections compared to just the hard numbers, the pure operational efficiency metrics we've been discussing? It makes for an investment profile that's quite unlike almost anything else in the sector, something to think about.